In 1888, excavators discovered 300,000 cat mummies in a vast underground tomb in Egypt. They were stacked from floor to ceiling, wrapped in linen, preserved for eternity. The discovery stunned the archaeological world, but more shockingly, across Egypt, from Saqqara to Bubastis to Thebes, archaeologists have since found cat cemeteries holding millions of mummified felines. Some were buried individually in small wooden coffins. Others were packed together in communal pits. The sheer number suggests not occasional ritual practice, but an industry. The scale is staggering. But the question is, why would an ancient civilization invest so much time, labor, and resources into preserving cats? The answer begins with an Egyptian mythology goddess named Bastet. In Egyptian mythology, Bastet appeared originally as a female warrior goddess with a lion's head, but over time, her image softened. Around 3,500 years ago, she was depicted as a woman with a cat's head. She became the protector of the home, of women, of children. Egyptians believed that cats carried her spirit. Jonathan Lossos, an evolutionary biologist at Washington University in St. Louis and author of The Cat's Meow: How Cats Evolved from the Savannah to Your Sofa, has studied the relationship between humans and felines extensively. In his analysis of the domestication process, he notes that Egyptians did not merely tolerate cats, they revered them. Tomb paintings from the 2nd millennium BC show cats wearing collars, eating from bowls under chairs, sitting on the laps of their owners. This was not worship in the literal sense. The Egyptians did not pray to individual house cats, but they believed the cats carried divine presence. To harm a cat in ancient Egypt was a serious crime. The Greek historian Diodorus Siculus recorded an incident in the 1st century BC in which a Roman citizen accidentally killed a cat in Egypt. A mob gathered. Despite the pleas of the pharaoh himself, who feared provoking Rome, the man was killed. No amount of political pressure could override the sacred status of the animal. This reverence created a paradox. The same culture that protected living cats also manufactured their deaths on a massive scale. During the Ptolemaic period, Egyptian priests bred cats specifically for mummification, not adult cats, kittens. Radiological studies conducted on mummified cats from this period show that the animals were young, often between 2 and 5 months old. The X-ray images reveal something striking. The ribs of the thorax were compressed flat. The joints of the hind legs were dislocated to fold the limbs into the smallest possible space. The body was then wrapped tightly in linen bandages coated with resin. The process was methodical. The entire body was wrapped in linen bandages coated with resin or cedar oil. Some mummies were painted. Black ink outlined eyes on small pieces of linen pressed against the face. Others were placed inside small wooden coffins shaped to the contours of a cat's body. These mummies were not pets that died of old age. They were commercial products. Pilgrims traveling to Bubastis for the annual festival of the goddess would purchase a mummified cat as a votive offering, a donation to the goddess in exchange for her favor. The Greek historian Herodotus visited Bubastis in the 5th century BC and described the festival as the largest religious gathering in Egypt. He estimated that 700,000 pilgrims attended. The practice raises uncomfortable questions. How could a culture that valued cats so highly also kill them in such numbers? The answer lies in the distinction between the animal and the divine. The way the Egyptians preserved human bodies to ensure the soul's survival in the afterlife, they also preserved cats to ensure the goddess's continued favor. The mummification was not a death, it was a transformation. This belief system did not emerge from nowhere. Cats had been useful to humans long before they became sacred, and that utility explains how the animal went from wild predator to household companion to divine icon. Genetic studies published in Science in 2025 upended the long-held assumption that cats were domesticated in the Middle East around 10,000 years ago. Claudio Ottoni and his colleagues analyzed feline remains from 97 archaeological sites across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Their conclusion: domestic cats originated in North Africa, most likely Egypt, approximately 3,500 years ago. The DNA of modern domestic cats traces back most closely to African wildcats, not to populations in Turkey or the Levant. The mechanism of domestication, however, was not deliberate human intervention. It was opportunism. Around 10,000 years ago, when humans began storing grain in permanent settlements, rodent populations exploded. Wildcats, specifically the Near Eastern wildcat, were attracted to the food source. The boldest individuals tolerated human proximity. Humans, in turn, tolerated the cats because they provided free pest control. This is not how dogs were domesticated. Dogs were actively selected, bred for specific traits over millennia. Cats, by contrast, essentially domesticated themselves. They entered human settlements on their own terms, and for thousands of years, they remained semi-wild. The Egyptian tomb paintings from 3,500 years ago are the first clear evidence of cats living fully integrated into human households. From Egypt, cats spread outward. Roman traders who valued them as rodent hunters on grain ships brought cats to Europe approximately 2,000 years ago. DNA evidence shows that domestic cats did not exist in Europe or Turkey before this time. The cats found in earlier European archaeological sites were European wildcats, a separate subspecies. This timeline aligns with the rise of Bastet worship. As cats became more common in Egyptian households, their religious significance grew. The domestication of cats is unusual in another way. Unlike dogs, which have been bred into hundreds of distinct breeds with wildly different appearances, domestic cats have changed remarkably little from their wild ancestors. According to genetic research, domestic cats differ from African wildcats in only a handful of genes, most of them related to behavior, not physical appearance. A wild cat and a house cat look almost identical. The difference is tolerance. Domestic cats are simply wild cats that learned not to run away. This explains why the transition from sacred animal to household pet was so seamless in Egypt but took longer elsewhere. In ancient Egypt, the cat's cleanliness, its hunting ability, and its quiet independence made it a natural fit for domestic life. The religious veneration that followed amplified its value. For most of European history, however, cats were viewed primarily as tools. They were tolerated because they killed mice, not because they were loved. That changed gradually. In 8th century Welsh law, the price of a healthy adult cat was set equal to that of a full-grown sheep. By the late 18th century in Britain, cats had re-emerged as popular pets. Today, approximately a quarter of UK households own at least one cat. Globally, the number of domestic cats exceeds 600 million. The millions of mummified cats buried beneath Egyptian sand represent something more than religious ritual. They mark a turning point in human history, the first time a wild predator became a companion, the first time an animal moved from the fields into the home. The Egyptians did not simply preserve cats for the afterlife, they preserved the evidence of a relationship that remains one of the most successful interspecies partnerships on Earth thousands of years later. Today, the same animals that once guarded grain stores and received divine offerings now sit on sofas and demand attention from humans who have no idea that, for a brief period in history, harming a cat could cost a man his life. Maybe the cats were never truly domesticated. Maybe they simply decided that living with humans was convenient, and they have never changed their mind.